You're listening to Ideal Practice, episode number 183. Today, guys, I want to dive into a theme, a pattern that I've been noticing lately with a lot of my coaching calls, a lot of my coaching consults that I've been doing. There are 2 or 3 very specific areas where I think many of you are diluting your marketing efforts, which means you're not reaching the people you need to meet. You're not going to bring them in to get the help that they need. And just with a few little tiny tweaks, I think we can fix this. Okay? That's what I want to talk about today. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. This is Wendy Pitts-Reeves, your host. And as always, I'm so happy to be hanging out with you today. It has been miserable as heck where I am. I mean, cold, dreary. We had a lot of beautiful snow recently, which I loved, but now that has turned into mush and slush, which those of you who live in the northern parts of the world are used to that. I'm not so used to that. And earlier today, I did an interview with somebody in Australia who was clearly burning up. I get such a kick out of that. What can I say? So I wanted to share a little story with you about something kind of funny that happened this week before I get into what I want to teach you today. Because there was such a great lesson in this. And in fact, this actually could tie into what I want to talk to you about today. So I did a consult a few weeks ago. I offer something called a quick start consult. If you're curious about that, you can go to my website, click on the start here button, and you can read about it. I'll mention that again in a minute. But, I was doing that with a new therapist that I had just met a few weeks ago. And she had a lot of really good stuff already going on in her practice. I could see lots of opportunity here because the foundation was already pretty solid. It was also clear she had already invested in her practice and had already done some good work in terms of fine-tuning some of her messaging, getting clear a little bit about what she wanted to do. A little bit. There was room for improvement there. But we had I thought it was a really good call. Covered lots of territory, spent a lot of time trying to basically sort of fix a couple of errors that I could see in her messaging and strengthen it in a way, make it a little bit more cohesive, which is a little bit about what I want to talk about with you today. And I felt like we got a lot done in the hour and a half or so that we worked together, maybe 2 hours. But I could feel a little bit of irritation in her. I felt like that's what I was seeing on her face. And she had mentioned to me that she had been in another coaching program or so somewhere along the way that did not deliver what she expected it to deliver. So, of course, my paranoia was kicking in, and I was assuming that the irritation I was picking up on was either that she wasn't getting what she thought she would be getting from me. That's immediately where I go. Isn't that what we do, right? Or that I was throwing too much at her too fast, which happens sometime. I mean, once you start to see what I can see in your practice, it can be a lot sometimes. So I did a whole lot of, take your time with this, let it sit for a while, go back and look at your notes. I'm going to send you a summary, see what kind of rises to the top and what themes kind of come out of this for you, and let me know later what your takeaways are. I did not actually expect to hear from her after that. This is a really great sort of foundational piece of work that I do with folks. And those who find it really helpful often will opt to come back and work with me for a longer period of time. I actually did not think I was going to hear from her. So what a surprise when a couple of weeks go by and she pops up on my calendar with another paid coaching call. And I'm like, well, how about that? Yay, this is wonderful. And y'all, when I work with people, I always have a little bit of homework. I want you to prepare before we get together so that you're already kind of in the right frame of mind about where you want to focus and where you want to go. It helps me prepare as well. She went above and beyond. She sent me what I asked for, as well as several other things that were really actually quite helpful. I could tell she had done a lot of thinking since our first call. Well, when we got on this call, the second one, I told her how excited I was to see her and that I had actually not expected to hear from her again. And I said, you seemed a little annoyed. I was afraid maybe I'd overwhelmed you or whatever. And she laughed. She laughed. She said, "Oh, yeah, I was annoyed, but I think what you were," she said, "I must have RBF, if you know what that means. I'm not going to say it." And I said, "No, that's not what it was. I just could feel something in your energy." And she said, yes, she was annoyed, but it wasn't with me. She said the whole time we were working together, in just this first initial kind of like, let's see what we can do here, she was kicking herself for not having called me when she first wanted to over a year ago. I kid you not, my jaw dropped. I laughed out loud. I'm like, you're kidding. That was so not what I was expecting. And she said, oh yeah. She said, I was just like, what in the world? Why have I waited a whole year for this? And that makes sense to me. Like we do that. Like I could have been here a year ago. I encouraged her, like, don't do that to yourself. You do what you do when you're ready to do it. We learn what we are ready to learn when we are ready to learn it. So there's nothing wrong with that. She wasn't ready a year ago. But what a lesson for me as a coach, as a podcaster, as a helper, not to assume that I know what's going on with somebody. And I wanted to tell you this story because how often do you do that? Do you find a program, a course, a coach, a therapist that you want to work with, and you just sort of sit on it? And are you going to wake up a year from now and wish you had taken action? And I'm not talking about with me. I mean, if that was me, great. That's wonderful. But that's not what I'm speaking to here. What I mean is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to reach out when you connect with someone in the public sphere that you think can help you. Whatever kind of provider it is, whatever the area that you need some help in, don't be afraid to reach out because good things happen once you take that first step. And I could see that here because just in the few weeks from our first call to our second, I could already see like she was so much more clear and so much more focused. So I thought that was a great story and I wanted to share that with you because that kind of clarity, the willingness to take action and the kind of giving yourself the time and permission to mull something over and fine tune something in your practice is something that we all need to do periodically, right? What I have noticed, I have found myself having the same conversation several times lately, and that's why I wanted to bring this here. When I notice a theme, I'm going to tell you about it. And there are 3 things in particular, but let me start with the first one. First of all, here's what I've seen. In a couple of consults that I've been doing just in the last few weeks, I spoke to one therapist who had done a lot of trauma work in hospitals, ERs, like the really serious stuff. And she understands trauma from the inside out. She understands first responders, EMTs, paramedics, plus, physicians and nurse practitioners and like folks who are kind of in the muck and some of the hardest stuff every day. She gets them. She understands them. She wants to encourage them. That's a big part of who she wants to reach. She also is a mom and has done a lot of work with moms around birth-related challenges or mama-related challenges, right? And there were a few other areas as well. I did another conversation. I had another consult with somebody who had a real interest in working with the immigrant population for lots of different reasons, and also really loves working with chronic illness for lots of different reasons. And I have seen this kind of thing over the years where people were, well, I really love working with little kids and also teenagers. I don't really want to talk to the parents, but I kind of have a heart for grandparents. Or I love doing addiction work, but I don't want a steady diet of just addiction work. So I also really love working with college age on their career choices. Do you see where I'm going here? Like, it's not at all unusual or weird or a problem at all if you find in your clinical work or in your healing service that you have 2 or 3 or 4 problems you like to work with, types of people you like to work with, areas of interest that really speak to you in one way or another. However, this is the number one, or what I would say that the primary way many of you are diluting your impact. If you cannot articulate clearly and concisely who you serve and how you serve them, you've got some work to do. When you cannot do that, and this is really common, we resist it. And y'all, I'm not just talking about the idea of a niche. It's really kind of a little bit more whole than that, more complete than that. We often find that we are reluctant to sort of choose an area of focus because we're afraid of cutting ourselves off from other opportunities, right? And I get that. But Wendy, I don't want to, but what if I can work with a 3-year-old as well as I can work with an 83-year-old? Well, good for you. But when you are marketing, your message is going to be muddy, and the people who need you will not recognize themselves in your material, in your message, in your language. See, actually the opposite happens. When you resist the challenge of honing in on a particular population or problem, a particular type of issue or person that you really, 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 really are good at working with, want to get even better at working with, love working with because it's fun or because it's so impactful or because you feel so good about it, whatever. When you resist that, you are diluting your marketing. Your ideal clients will not recognize themselves in your material and they will not call you. You do not need a long laundry list of symptoms or disorders that you treat, y'all. What you need is to describe the human being that you know and understand like nobody's business. Now, don't make the mistake that that's this person I was talking to you about at the beginning of waiting to ask for help. If I can help you with this is a big part of what I do in these consults is literally this work, helping people nail down who it is they want to work with. You can find information on that yourself really easily. Go to my website, wendypittsreeves.com /consult, or you'll just click on the button that says start here. That's the easiest way to find it. Go read about that, sign up for one, and don't wait if this speaks to you. If this speaks to you. Here's what I want you to do. I want you, more than anything else, first of all, to narrow your target audience into one avatar. Let's use the word avatar. You know what I mean by that? Like if you sat down and did a little journaling or brainstorming or mind mapping around let's say 2, 3, 4 of your favorite clients that you love working with the most, I bet you could pull things from each of them that they all have in common and think of it as a character in a story. A character in a story that has aspects of all of those favorites in it, but they are the themes that tie them all together. That avatar, that character is the summary, the comprehensive whole of who you really want to speak to. As an example, y'all, I talk a lot about in my counseling work. I work with women leaders at midlife, and I have talked a little bit about what that looks like. But as I am working with that population more and more, a very unexpected theme has begun to show up, which is practice owners are reaching out to me, not to help them with their practice, but to help them with their life, just as a psychotherapist. But they're reaching out to me because they know I get the business side of it too, right? So I have had sort of a surprising number of healthcare professionals that I know in all different kinds of ways, not as a coach, who have been reaching out to me and saying, I think I want to work with you, not just on my practice, but really kind of on me. that is turning into an avatar for me. That is turning into a comprehensive whole of a human that I love and understand so well. Who is that for you? Take some time to figure that out and be willing to come back and revisit that from time to time, because just like what's happening with me, literally in lifetime, it changes, it evolves. It's this character, this shape sort of, oh, I don't even know how to say it. I'm thinking about like molding clay, but that's not the best analogy. But it is something that will evolve over time as you understand your clients better and as you understand your own work better. Now, there's two other things I want to tell you. So this is the main one. The number one thing I feel like I spend so much time with practice owners on is getting really crystal clear about who this avatar is, who their ideal client is. You know, I did another episode on this just a few weeks ago on sort of a 10-step process that I use to help people sort of figure this person out. I will certainly link to that below, but I just kind of wanted to hit it quickly here today, because what I really want to say, first of all, what I've already said, that yes, this is kind of like the number one place where I see people are stuck. Once we get past that, there's two other things I want you to do. There are two questions that you need to ask every client or potential client who comes your way. This is a really good reason to get on the phone with somebody, get into some kind of an initial consult with them, even if it's an email exchange. But a live conversation is the best, right? There are two things that I'm noticing this as a pattern that people do not do that I did not realize they do not do. Number one is I want you to ask them during your initial consult or your intake process, how did they find you? How did they find out about you? Where did this referral come from? Did they find you on Psych Today? Did they find you through your website? Did Google tell them to call you? Did their doctor tell you? Did their preacher tell you? Did their best friend tell them to call you? Where did they get your name? First of all, you want to know that, because that tells you that you are rising to the top in some way, wherever that is. Okay? Always ask that question. How did you find out about me? Where did you find out about me? And y'all track that with every single inquiry you get, because over the course of a year, over the course of 6 months, if you notice you're getting a lot of referrals from your Psych Today profile, that tells you something. If you're getting a lot of referrals from a particular practice across town where you had coffee with somebody last month, that tells you something. If you're getting a lot of referrals from your own pediatrician, that tells you something. That lets you know that your message is connecting in that place, wherever that is. So that's very important. The second question I want you to ask when you meet them, do this in person or do this on a live call. Ask, what made you decide to reach out to me in particular? I'm kind of curious. So first of all, how did you find me? Where did I know there's a lot of help out there. Where did you find me? Oh, okay, great. I'm glad to hear that. That's wonderful. And can I ask, what made you decide to reach out to me in particular? You had lots of choices. Why did you call me? That is probably the single most impactful question you can ask a potential client. I'm telling you. Because you may be surprised at the answer. But what you will learn by asking that question are two things. This is what I was sharing in this consult earlier this week. For one, on a really practical note, it just tells you what they need from you. It will tell you something about what this person is looking for from you. And it already kind of gives you a head start on how to serve them, how to show up for them. You already know something about what they are expecting. So if the answer you get when you say, so tell me, what made you decide to reach out to me in particular? And they say, I just really love the fact that you had your picture of your dog with you on your website, and you're a dog person. That makes me, I already liked you, and I figure you couldn't be bad. I mean, you couldn't be too bad if you were a dog person. Well, that already tells me I might want to bring my dog to a session one time, or I might want to invite my client to bring their dog. Or we can talk about dogs because we're going to find out that we have something in common. I mean, that may be kind of a silly thing, but that is literally something I've seen happen. Or if they say, which a lot of my people do, I really liked that part where you said, you don't just nod your head and go, mm-hmm. You said you would tell people what you think, and I need that. I don't want somebody to tell me what I want to hear. When a client says that to me, that gives me permission to show up fully as myself. And that tells me already that they are going to be active and engaged and they are looking for guidance and direction. That's great. That's the kind of person I want to work with, right? When you ask people what made them decide to reach out to you in particular, you not only know something about them and what they need and how to help them, how to serve them, how to be there for them, but you also are learning what it is in your messaging, what it is in your marketing that lands. And once you know that, my friend, lean into it. Lean into it with everything you've got. Lean into it on your website copy. Lean into it on your social media profiles. Lean into it in the way you talk to people when you meet them at a conference or a backyard barbecue. Because that clearly is resonating with the people you want to serve. That avatar, that human being that you love so much and know that you are meant for. Once you understand who that person is, you figure out where they are finding you so you can get yourself there even more, and you know what it is about you that speaks to them. That is going to strengthen your marketing in a very natural, easy, aligned way. This is not about being who you are not. This is about being more of who you are, because the people you most want to serve love it and connect with it. Well, that's great. I mean, that's marketing with heart. And that's the best kind of all, right? So I'll just give you one little example of how this has played out in my life. Literally just today, I got a text from a realtor that I adore, that I've done some work with in the past, who texted me. This particular realtor had contacted me a couple of weeks ago seeking help with their 12-year-old daughter. I don't work with 12-year-olds, y'all. And in this particular case, this child already has a well-established therapist, and it happens to be somebody I know really well. It happens to be somebody I actually once brought into my own group practice. So I knew this person personally. I know how good this therapist is. But as I invited this realtor and their spouse to share with me what the situation was and what they were concerned about with their daughter, it didn't take much for me to have sort of a clinical idea about what direction to go in. And I, first of all, told them to go back to her therapist, who she clearly loves and has done some good work with on one particular aspect of the help that she needs. But there's a special kind of help this particular child needs that I think maybe somebody else should provide, someone who specializes in this second area of need. And so I said, go back to your primary therapist, tell her this is what I'm recommending. Make sure she agrees with it, because she knows your child. I do not. But my guess is that this primary therapist will be your foundation, your anchor for this child as she moves through adolescence. And that's a great thing. But you've got this one specific little problem that the kind of work that therapist does is not going to address. I think you need someone who specializes in that. And I gave them a methodology I think particularly is helpful, which in this particular case was AAIT, although there are plenty of others that work as well. And I gave them a name, but also encouraged them to go get some names from this primary therapist. And that is exactly what they've done. Tonight, one of the parents texted me to say that they had now, between myself and what the primary therapist had recommended, they've now got a list of 2 or 3 names, all people who specialize in this one specific area. And they are going to hone that, narrow that down, go do some of that work in this particular specialized area, and then come back to their primary person. This is what specific marketing will do for you. I knew I thought you need someone who specializes in this population. I recommend this particular methodology, and they need to be able to address this particular type of problem. Very specific. And then come back to this person who's like their foundation for this child. That is what good marketing will do for you. The people who need you will be like, there it is. That's what we are looking for. Exactly. And they will recognize themselves or their family member, the person they're trying to get help for, in your work, and they will call you. I hope this is helpful to you. So the 3 things I'm saying today: narrow down who you serve into one cohesive whole. Describe a human being that ties it all together, and make sure you are speaking to that human being. Ask everyone who reaches out to you how they find you, because that lets you know where you're showing up in the world in a good way. And more than anything else, ask them why they picked you in particular. That's the secret question that I think sort of unlocks the door to the kind of clients you're going to do your best work with. All right? All right. All right. I hope that's helpful. Take that and play with it. Let me know what you think about it. And I tell you what, I'd love to hear from you. If you would, shoot me an email and tell me what your clients say. And guys, you could do this with your existing clients. The people you're working with now, you can say, hey, you know what? I've never have asked you this, but when you first reached out to me, what made you decide to reach out to me? I'm telling you, the answer will surprise you. It surprises me every single time. And it will you will have light bulbs going off in your head. Like, oh, wow, I had no idea. So do this and write me and tell me what you learn. Wendy@wendypittsreeves.com. That's my email directly. I will answer it directly, personally. Wendy@wendypittsreeves.com. I would love to know what you learn just from asking that superpower question. All right? All right. Have fun with this, you all. See what you can find out. Have a great week. Go play, enjoy, discover, learn, and stop diluting your marketing. All right? All right, everybody. Have a good one, and I will see you next week right here on the Ideal Practice Podcast. Bye now. Hey, y'all. If this program has become important to you, if Ideal Practice matters, it would mean so much to me if you'd be willing to take just a minute to do 1 or 2 of the following things. First of all, would you follow or subscribe to the show here at Ideal Practice? Following me helps you because you'll never miss an episode, but it helps me as well for all kinds of reasons. To do that, all you have to do is go to the show page for Ideal Practice on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. There, just click on the plus sign that you'll usually find in the top right-hand corner, or click on the word follow that you're going to find somewhere there on that page. Of all the things, this really is the most important thing you can do for the podcast itself. While you're there, it would be extra special if you would be willing to give me a 5-star rating, and even better than that, a review with your own words. Your words matter. And when you write what you feel, what you think, you uplift and encourage others. And I love that. If you want to go a step further than that, take your favorite episode or 2, one of the ones that has meant a lot to you, and share it with a friend. Could you do 1 or 2 of those things for me? I promise I will love you forever. You guys matter to me, and I value your support more than I can possibly say. Thank you, sweet friend, for anything you can do to help me out and support the show. I'll see you again soon.